Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Thriving Relationships Show. I am Christine Eartheart, your host and the founder of the Center for Thriving Relationships. And I am so delighted and grateful to have you here and to get to support you in experiencing more love, connection, understanding, healing, and ease in your relationships. And if you have ever been in a romantic relationship, or if you're in one now, you can probably relate to this experience. You have this partner who you know loves you, cares about you, supports you, and probably has good intentions. And yet you have moments where you feel triggered. And in those moments, it seems like they're out to get you, that they aren't loving you or supporting you. So excited to introduce you to today's guest, because she's going to help us understand what's actually coming up in these moments, because so often it is not about what's occurring on the surface. It stems back far before we've even met our partner. So how do we discover what's really going on? And most of all, how can we be a source of healing for ourselves and for one another? So without further ado, so thrilled, so honored to have you here, Marina. So introducing all of you to Marina Yanay-Triner. She is a compassionate somatic coach. As a trauma-informed coach, Marina works with clients to go deep into the roots of behavioral patterns that hold them back from experiencing life to its fullest, looking at childhood-rooted beliefs, emotions, behavioral patterns, and the unconscious to create massive transformation. Marina uses body-based approaches, including mindful self-compassion, nervous system regulation, and emotional healing to support a connection back to the body, strengthen their connection with their intuition, and flourish. Welcome, Marina. Thank you so much for joining us and coming to share your healing goodness and wisdom with us. So
Thank you.
Before we dive into so much more of the magic of what you do, could you share with us, why is it so important that we engage in emotional healing in order to have a healthy relationship?
Emotional healing is so important in relationships, especially because, as you said, we get super triggered by our partners and we bring that reactivity into the communication. I feel like so many people talk about conscious communication and how do we communicate, and that is like pretty easy to do, I feel like, for most of us when we aren't triggered. When we're just like present and we're talking, and we can say the same thing but using a different tone and different emotionality, reactivity, it's going to sound totally different. And the important piece is really that the emotion inside of us. And that is really where the emotional healing comes in, because if we do this work, if we do the emotional healing work, we will be less triggered by our partners. And I'm sure we'll go into all the details of how to do it and why are the emotions from when I'm 3 years old getting triggered by my partner now, but it's there.
Oh, so powerful. So, right, it's not just about learning kind of the tool, the how to communicate. It's like, depending on what state we're in, what I'm hearing you saying is it's going to come across completely differently to our partner. So amazing. And I know you talk a lot about like being regulated versus dysregulated. So can you help us understand, when we're feeling triggered, what are the things to look for? Like, how does somebody even know like that they are dysregulated or regulated?
Yeah, there's many layers. So a big general thing is like you feel unsafe. That's actually what's happening. So I always teach my clients this: you are feeling unsafe and there isn't danger likely. That's why you're triggered. If you're actually unsafe, it's a good thing that your nervous system is anxious, right? Because you're gonna fight or flee. That's a great thing. What ends up happening in relationships a lot of times is we think there's danger, but we're actually safe. So one is just to actually ask yourself, do I feel safe? And that takes some tuning in and really understanding yourself and your body. So that might not be an easy, quick answer, but just really practice that. Like, keep asking yourself, do I feel safe right now? And if you say no, that's a really good sign. But other than that, like really quick things is, your heart rate might change. You might be not breathing deep breaths. You might feel probably either really reactive, like it's really hard for you to speak nicely to your partner, or really shut down. You just feel like disconnected. You feel like you're not present. You're kind of like zoning out, or you just feel like racing, and you're super angry, or you're super, super emotional, and directing that at the other person, and maybe possibly blaming them even.
All right, those are great kind of different body sensations to be on the lookout for. That means like something more is probably present. And can you speak to that? What's happened? So, we feel our breath has changed, our heart rate has changed, all these different things. What's going on? And we don't feel
so
safe.
Basically, yes, we don't feel safe. So our nervous system being regulated, just a general, term, means that we can come back from those states quicker. So that's kind of our goal. We practice how we can come back from these states quicker. But what's happening is our nervous system goes into either sympathetic, and this is our autonomic nervous system. So that means it's automatic. You don't control it. It also controls, things like digestion. It's not something conscious. It's going on in the background, which is really good, because if there's a threat, it's really good that it's activated. So I'm always saying that because people tend to really judge themselves. And of course I do too. And I totally get that when we lash out at our partners. And just remember, this is completely automatic. You are not doing it consciously. So what is happening is basically your nervous system goes into either fight or flee, where you feel really charged and angry, or the next level is it goes into shutdown or dorsal vagal. That's what it's called in, the nervous system speak. And essentially, it could be that you are being reminded of subconsciously something from your childhood where you felt unsafe. This can go so far as to when you were in your mother's belly, when you were a baby, like not conscious memories. It could also be conscious memories. And it could also go as far back as your ancestors. So things that happened to them, and that's why I like working with the body, because your body remembers that. Your mind doesn't, of course. You're not like, oh yeah, my partner said this sentence that is something my grandma heard and really, was unsafe for her in her adulthood, right?
Yes, I love that. So really beginning with the body, because the body knows what we, may have absolutely no conscious recollection of. So I love it. So these things can get stirred up from long, long ago. And can you give us some example of what's a time that, someone, you were interacting with your partner or one of your clients was, and, in that moment, it was kind of maybe disproportionate. I don't know if that's a fair term to what was actually happening. They were actually very safe, very loved and supported. And their amazing, brilliant body. I love that you celebrate the intelligence of our bodies wanting so much to protect us. And their body was indicating something that was in contrast to maybe what was happening. What can you kind of paint a picture for us?
Yeah. So I love, there's one that is a contrast and one that is, as you said, it's always disproportionate, right? Because again, we are not in danger, but we're acting as if we are in danger. So an example for me, which is personal, is when we moved to Costa Rica, my partner started to be slightly more aggressive and reactive, and I like this example because I do want that to change. Like, I don't think it's a good thing. I don't want him to speak to me like that. And I wasn't in danger. Like, he wasn't abusive in any way. He was just raising his voice a little, like being more reactive. And that really triggered me because I've had that kind of verbal abuse when I was growing up. So I could just feel like my whole body shutting down. And for hours, like I would feel my body just be shut down for hours, kind of numb. And it took me time to realize, wow, I feel so unsafe that I'm going into dorsal. And by the way, dorsal, which is that shutdown state, that is also called preparation for death. So that's really interesting because in the wild, this is what animals do when they're being hunted. They kind of numb out, shut down, so that if they are killed, they don't feel the intense pain of, being killed. And so that's really, really interesting to know. So that's one example. So again, I believe, this is my opinion, when we're triggered, it's like two things at the same time. Our partner might be doing something that we don't like and we want them to stop doing. And we are, our past trauma history is being kind of brought to the surface. So for me, it's like learning how to calm my nervous system on my own and then to communicate like this doesn't work for me. So the second example, and you said contrast, which I really like. I have a client who really wants to be loved and adored by their partner. And I mean, as we all kind of do. And then when it happens, this person just freaks out. So that's very interesting, right? And that also has to do with attachment styles as well, which maybe we'll talk about. But, there's like this freak out, this shutdown, looking for kind of nitpicking and looking for the things that are wrong. And as we work together, this person's kind of realizing like, that's really interesting that I'm doing that, right? Because sometimes we do that and we think, oh, my partner, he's so annoying. Like he's doing this and this and this. And we really see that as reality. When our nervous system drives us, we see things as reality when actually we're wearing these glasses on reality.
Thank you so much for sharing that personal example and your client. That paints a picture, and it happens to all of us, and so quickly, right? And so how important do you find it to be for us to even understand, like, oh, this is what came up in that moment? Like, to really identify the memory or the stage of life or the belief? How important is that, do you think?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It is and it's not. It's kind of tricky because, I learned a lot of like personal development, and then I also am in the somatic world. And they kind of come butt heads in a way. The somatic world really says it's not important at all. Like you don't need to know anything. You just need to be in your body. And I find that that's a great perspective. And I also work with people who don't remember their childhoods. Like they don't remember for different reasons. Maybe it was really traumatic, so they kind of blocked it out. They don't remember. So we can still work with this trauma and we can still unravel it and we can still, process it. So that's really brilliant. On the other hand, for me, I find, especially for people who had a lot of complex trauma, so like long relationships that were really complicated and abusive and things like that, or, emotionally, verbally, physically abusive, I find that it's so crucial to direct our response to those relationships rather than towards our partners. Because sometimes like I will get triggered and I will feel like, my partner is wrong here. And actually what's happening is I'm remembering past memories and I need to direct my emotions, my grief and my rage, most of all, to that time in my life. And that is so healing. So even if you don't remember specifics, you can at least remember, in my childhood, I wanted something and I didn't get it. So that's really important. That's really, the key. And then I can really direct my emotions towards that kind of feeling. Like maybe I got too much of something, maybe I got too little of something, and I can direct my emotions to that time in my life.
So beautifully put. Thank you so much for describing that. So anyone who's listening or watching, if you have this experience, right? You experience triggers, you sense that maybe there's something more there. Maybe you've never even, thought of that before. Maybe you've done really deep work, anywhere on the spectrum. And maybe it's hard for you to know though, like, I don't know what chapter, where it came from, to be assured that there is a pathway to healing, even if we don't have a conscious awareness of the real specifics. And I hear, Marina, there's also a whole nother element of healing that's available for us, and we can identify the real source so that we can move through that. And and I'm sure you're going to share more about your favorite ways to kind of address it with someone in our life who may be living, not living, maybe we don't have any contact with them. And so maybe let's explore that. So if someone knows, like, okay, definitely there were things that happened in my past, right, that were painful. There were things that I really longed for that weren't met. I love that you distilled that into something really simple. Like chances are you experienced too little of something that you really, really needed, or too much of something that was really painful and harmful. And so if someone has this awareness, right, there's something from the past influencing the present, where do you recommend people begin?
Yeah, this is, here's the kind of like tricky thing about this that I find in my own life and all of my clients. Those are the types of people that need emotional healing the most and need to process all of that emotionally. And at the same time, those people struggle the most with emotions. And that's why I make money, kind of. I mean, I was my own client too, or I also had, a lot of support in this area with emotions and still do. It's still something I work on. But yeah, that's kind of the paradox. So essentially what I find is someone learns, okay, it makes sense. I need to grieve this. I need to rage about this, because all of those emotions from that early age, when I didn't learn about emotions, number one, and number two, didn't have the support to actually like express them and get them out of my system, all that energy is trapped in my body and it is blocking goodness from coming in. And it is also arising every time I get triggered by someone. And it can be a friend, a colleague, a partner, any relationship. And so what ends up happening is, okay, you know this, and then you try to do it, and basically you get super dysregulated because all of this fear layer comes up, that emotions are really scary. I don't know how to do this. I don't know, how to feel on my own. I feel like it's never gonna pass. I get into this kind of hopeless state. Basically, I start to feel from being 5 years old instead of feeling from the adult body. So what I teach people is how to regulate your nervous system and then feel in like little chunks. And slowly we learn to direct those emotions to memories or even like emotional memories of that trauma. And again, we get dysregulated in the process. So we'll start thinking, we'll no longer be present, and then we get regulated again. And then we feel in little chunks, and we keep practicing that until eventually we kind of learn to just feel an emotion, like feel sadness all the way through. And even when we direct that sadness to childhood grief, we feel it all the way through, and then we really get this clear present feeling afterwards that feels amazing. So that's kind of the process.
Such a beautiful process. Thank you so much for describing that. And is there anything, any little mini exercise to give people a little taste of what it feels like to experience more regulation in our nervous system? Because it sounds like that's sort of the entry point, is to get us into a place where it feels safe, and to bring that part of ourselves to the younger selves that are still really in some sort of pain or fear. So if you're inspired, no pressure. If you want to guide us through something for people to actually feel it, because I know you do amazing.
Yeah, I would love that. So first of all, I just want to say it's really important in somatic work to actually sense your body. And a lot of people, because they've had a lot of trauma, this was definitely me for many, many years, most of my life, kind of live neck up. So we live in our minds a lot. And that makes sense. And that happens because you struggle to access your body, where all the trauma then erupts. So the first thing is, and we can do this now, you can close your eyes, you can keep them open, is just to notice one place in your body that feels okay. And I often go to my hands and my feet. But of course, it is up to you. It can be the tip of your nose, your ear, like any place in your body that feels okay. And I just want you to kind of notice the sensations there. Does it feel light? Does it feel open? Or maybe it feels heavy and still. Does it feel like slightly tingly? And then also the temperature of that place in your body. And just maybe we can get quiet for literally 5 seconds. And all I want you to do in those 5 seconds is actually focus all of your mental power on the sensation in that area of your body. And you can open your eyes whenever you are ready. How was that for you?
Oh, it was so lovely. I went right here in my body, and it just happens really instantly. It's like, everything from the day just sort of fell away, and the peace of the present moment felt right. And it's physical. I mean, that's what's so amazing. It wasn't that I was intellectualizing like, oh, I'm in this lovely, beautiful moment. It was such a felt sensation. So thank you.
Yeah. And I will add, just couple more that have really helped me recently, but I'm always discovering other, new things. But it's really about when you do these practices, like you said, not thinking, oh yes, I feel good now. I think this is how I know my clients are in their head when I'm like, how do you feel right now? I think pretty good. Like, oh, you think so? So one is water for me, maybe for other people too, just like feeling water in your skin, being in the pool, being in a bathtub, whatever it is. When I feel super unsafe and like nothing works, it really works for me to go into water and actually like close my eyes and feel my whole body in the water. And that's probably because of the womb. We were in water. I'm assuming, I'm guessing. And another one is holding the bottoms of your feet. And that a good friend taught me that in Tantra, actually. That was a partner exercise for sexual healing where my partner would hold the bottoms of your feet, but you can also do it for yourself. And it just feels so good for some people. Again, all of these practices feel good for some people. Maybe they don't feel good for you. So like always listen to your own body and what feels good for you and experiment finding the right one.
Oh, I love that. And for the feet, is there any place in particular that you recommend? Is it kind of
the bottoms of the feet? Yeah. So taking the palm of your hand and just putting it on the bottoms of your bare feet and just like feeling how that is.
Feels so nourishing and grounding. And I love it's like the simplicity, like how amazing we have this with us wherever we go, and water. So those of you listening who love baths or being submerged, it's a really real thing. So that's so great. So taking a moment just to tune in to a part of our body that feels good, coming to the physical sensation, water in its various forms, and putting our hands on the soles of our feet. Those are such great concrete takeaways. So would love to hear anybody to chime in the comments and let us know how those feel for you. So Marina, what inspired you to get into this work?
So it was really my first business. My first business felt very stuck. And I was doing coaching as well. I was doing nutrition, plant-based coaching. And I just kept like barely making money and not having reach. Like I always felt like I need to reach a lot of people, and I really enjoy that. I like public speaking and all these things. And basically I had, dreams in my head of how this should be like, and it wasn't happening. And I started to get into personal development because I was like, okay, I know every marketing strategy and that's not the problem. So I guess it's something else. So I was getting really curious about personal development. And then I signed up for a mastermind for business owners or entrepreneurs. And the coach was a somatic therapist in the past. And she was like, I just want you to sit with your body. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was so confused. I literally had no idea what that means. So she said, yeah, because she just kept witnessing me be stuck and stuck and stuck. And she just said, yeah, I just want you to like be with your body, like feel your body. Don't have an agenda, just be there. And I remember in the beginning, it felt really weird and awkward. And over time, I was like, all of a sudden doing this for an hour, and just like time, it was like this magical journey in my body. And I was feeling all these sensations and just noticing them. And it was really amazing. And then I hired a coach who said to me that my business itself was a trauma response. And that was, yeah, I'm still in touch with her. She's actually a medium. She's a fascinating person. She said that on the first day we met. And I was like, okay, I'm hiring you. Yeah, it was like so powerful. And so that really got me curious about trauma and how it shows up. And kind of, I knew that I have had a lot of trauma in my life, but I was really focused on like specific events that happened rather than understanding how trauma becomes almost like a pattern for us, like a pattern response that we just do over and over again. The way that we interact with money, the way that we interact with people, like in all of our relationships, the way we go to the grocery store, it's like it's everywhere. So then, I just got so curious about the body and how we can actually do this healing from the body rather than, listening to affirmations and things like that, because I was still feeling stuck. Now those things work really well for me because I do them with all of my emotion and my body, and it's different. So then, I had my own somatic experiencing therapist for several years, and I started to get certified, and yeah, here we are.
I love that. Thanks so much for sharing. And it's undeniable that you are now serving so many people. Be sure we'll put links here. Marina has, we met via Instagram, and you generate such phenomenal content. So be sure to go check her out and follow along. You'll learn so much. So congratulations on just using that, like what wasn't working as just a nudge to direct you towards doing work that sounds like is born from a place of healing rather than trauma. I totally had chills when you said that. That's really, really incredible. Thanks so much for sharing that story. So can you tell us about kind of a before and after, whether it's you or a client? So kind of before doing some of this trauma healing work, the emotional healing work, the somatic work, what kind of the relationship looked like, so specifically around relationships. And then when someone does the healing work, what shifts in their relationship? Like what's really possible for people?
Yeah. So, I always like to remind everyone that it's a journey. So maybe we get really good at our triggers, and then suddenly, like for my partner and I, we were doing really, really well. And we actually had our own coaching, and I was able to really take ownership of like every trigger. And if I felt angry with him, I understood that this is my anger, and I would work through it on my own and then talk to him. And the conversation started getting really productive and peaceful, which felt so good. Like our conflict started to feel like just dialogue, not like, Rrr. And then we moved. And everyone reminded us, all our coaches and friends and everyone, that moving is stressful. The human brain does not like change. It's such, even though we moved to Costa Rica, which is incredible in all these things, it's still, it's a big change. And all of our triggers came up, and it was just insane for like a month. So I'm saying that because, I used to think that there's always like a before and after forever. And it's just like you're fixed and you're good. And it's just not how it works. But I can share about my own self. I kind of like to see how I operate under pressure years ago and now, which is entirely different, with the understanding that, of course, something is being triggered in me, and I get curious about that. And I don't have the same like judgment of myself that I used to have. So I get really curious, like, why is my partner triggering me? I'm able to speak my needs better because it's like my body is just telling me a truth. It's not from my mind. And I'm also able to kind of take breaks and take care of my own emotions and express my own emotions. And now I'm really getting to the place where it's like the trigger in the relationship allowed me to access past trauma that I had the capacity to deal with. And then I feel more clear, and I enter the stage of just having more space in my body, enjoying things more, enjoying the relationship more, and then a stage of growth. It's almost like little stages. Like there's a trigger, there's conflict, it's difficult, it's icky, it's sticky, and then you get to like the stage of growth in your relationship where there's less triggers and you're more in love and you're more excited and you're more connected and all these things, and that's really lovely.
Thanks for describing that. And I love your encouragement to just give us the spaciousness that we really get to be these lifelong students here at Earth School. And there's no finish line, there's no rush. And it's just a continual evolution and journey. So thank you so much. And just for sharing a little insight. Yes, when we're under stress, I know in my own life, it's like that's when anything that needs some love and attention, healing comes to the surface. And I also appreciate so much what you're saying about, when in our romantic relationship, it's probably where we're triggered the most of all. And that this is a good thing. If we really turn towards it and befriend these triggers and see them as invitations to do the deeper healing work. It's like in the context of our romantic relationship, where we get to really illuminate, what needs our loving attention. So thanks so much for that. So we know a little bit about kind of some of the things maybe we can do, going on this journey of identifying what's been stirred up, the somatic work. If we're witnessing our partner, so maybe we're witnessing our partner and they're experiencing a lot of triggers. What would be your recommendation of how do we best show up for our partner when they're in this dysregulated state in their nervous system?
That's always a tricky question out of my relationship because sometimes, it's really about how you share that message with the other person. Because if you share it from blame and shame, then that person is very unlikely to take it in. And so the first thing is, are you triggered by their trigger? And that's like it usually means that either you are disowning that part of you or it's reminding you of something in your childhood. So for example, if we're triggered by our partner being really messy, maybe we have that part, or maybe we really secretly want to be messy and we judge that. Or maybe we were judged for being messy earlier in life. It's like all around that, right? And the easiest thing for us is always like kind of yell at our partner and be like, stop doing that. And I have done it a million times. So don't be hard on yourself, but also like, can you pause and kind of check in and see why are you being triggered by their triggers? That's kind of the first step. And then if you feel kind of clear and not charged. I really like that word because you can check in with your body and see, do I feel charged? Not the time to speak to anyone. It's the time to go and release that energy, hit some pillows, scream into the pillow, whatever you need to do, cry, like let that energy out of your body. And I mean, that's a whole other complicated thing. A lot of my clients will say, I feel really guilty for doing that, or that's really weird, or, and then we explore like, what is your relationship with anger and sadness and crying and yelling and all these things. It's really fascinating. But that aside, when we do feel present and clear, we can, just come to our partner and say, and I've been doing this actually a lot recently, with my partner, just being like, can I give you some feedback? Is it okay? I'm noticing that you're really zoned out today. I'm noticing that you're really numbed out today. Do you want to come and like do some stretching with me? Do you want to go with me for a walk? And my partner is like the best and the worst because it's all in my tone. Like if I even slightly like judge him, or he could tell, he right away he's like, no, I don't want to go on any walk with you, like leave me alone. And if I come with love, he's like so open to things. And most people are somewhere on that spectrum, right? So I guess that would be my advice on that.
Oh, that is brilliant. I want to like highlight that, underscore that. That is such a good thing to do a check-in, if we're witnessing our partner in a trigger, and are we triggered by the trigger? And then that becomes its own exploration, juicy exploration for us to do. And if we're feeling triggered, it's like, that is just a sign that it's time to really be with ourselves and move that energy. And it's so true what we can pick up on all the subtle things. So even if you think, that like, yeah, I'm triggered, but they're not going to notice, in intimate relationships, not even on a conscious level, it's like our bodies know whether or not it's safe for us to really engage and receive support from one another. And so what an incredible invitation that is to really hold us accountable to making sure that we can have our hearts open. Like, are you in a space where you can truly open-heartedly hold a loving, safe space for your partner and give them some feedback? It sounds like your recommendation is to ask them if they would like feedback or not, or if they're open to it in the moment, and then to really support them, to really genuinely support them. So
yeah, it's funny because my partner was not open to my feedback for a really long time. And that took a lot of practice too, to kind of like, and for both of us, sometimes I can also be like really resistant to him as well. But that's a big practice for us, is like to be open and to know, thank you for your feedback. That doesn't actually resonate, or yes, you're right, I see that, and like really be open to it. So that took a lot of work for us, and it's a work in progress to really keep being open to feedback.
Yes. Oh, I can so relate. I think that's the journey of a lifetime for all of us. That's our partners can see us in some ways more clearly than we can see ourselves. And so we have such an invitation, such an opportunity to really, gain self-awareness and to determine what really resonates and what doesn't, and how to offer that to one another in a way that is most helpful and supportive. There is such an art to doing that. So Marina, it sounds like a theme in what you're suggesting is that, we really learn to feel our feelings and be with them. And I love what you're saying, that, if we allow ourselves to feel them, then we create space for all the good stuff to come in. So for people out there that are like, no way, I don't want to feel those feelings, they've kept them over there, they're like, life is going just fine. Maybe they were told by someone growing up that those feelings are bad or weak to express, or maybe they witnessed a caregiver express these feelings. And so they, as a kid, were like, I don't ever want to act like that. I'm not going to express that feeling. That is bad and harmful. Or maybe they expressed a big emotion and their caregivers, punish them in some way for it. So all the different reasons why we learn along the way that certain feelings are bad or wrong. And people are like, I don't want to go there. That sounds uncomfortable and messy and all the things. What would be your message of encouragement or inspiration? Why is it worth it to do this emotional work?
It's so worth it. It's so worth it. So take it from someone who really had to learn this stuff from scratch. I was truly starting with level 0. I had no idea how to do it, how it works. And what I really found out is my entire business, for example, took off because I learned emotional healing work. And so the energy with which you'll start to approach other people, relationships, your work, every part of your life is just going to completely transform when you take care of your own energy, which is your own emotions. So yes, it's uncomfortable. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is uncomfortable to feel, especially when we start, but it's really like any skill. Like it's like anything that you want to learn, but it's just so foundational to life, is to learn how to do this step by step, kind of like when you start going to the gym and you're like, I don't know what to do here. It's so awkward. It's the same thing. You learn how to do it, and then everything feels easier and lighter in your life, which is so amazing. And just generally, that feeling of being alive. Like I work with so many people who are super successful on the outside, like they have a relationship, they make money, like all the things you would think, but internally they really feel so almost dead. And so really, I find that the point of life is to just feel the most alive, the most open-hearted, and that's what this work with emotions will really give you.
Thank you so much, Marina. Yes, if you want to feel lighter, the sense of freedom, aliveness, those are pretty irresistible things to want to feel, that it is worth it. It is amazing just beginning to name. I know a practice that I've, been doing for years now, but didn't do before. I had no idea how many things I could feel in any given day. Sort of do an emotional house cleaning when I'm, sitting in meditation, just naming all the different things that I'm feeling. I'm like, wow, there's so many feelings at the same time. And so I love that you are such an enthusiast and advocate and just such a loving encourager of us befriending these beautiful parts of who we are. So you've given us so much to reflect on and consider. So anything else you want to share? If there is a couple out there right now who is feeling disconnected, or they're struggling, or just longing, to feel the spark again, any other words of wisdom or encouragement you have to share?
Yeah, I've definitely felt that so often myself. And it's really like, how can you connect to yourself? How can you connect to your own aliveness, to your own passion? Like, go and do fun things. Go and really get into that, childlike, enthusiastic energy on your own, and then bring that into the relationship. Because if you feel that, you will not depend on your partner to help you feel that, because you can take ownership of it. I have even been learning about, in sexuality, that we are supposed to take ownership of our own pleasure in life. And that really speaks to me. So it's like, how can you take ownership of your own experience and then bring that into the relationship? And that will bring all the passion back.
So good. So this is, your encouragement to go fill your life with those things that you want kind of to spill over into your relationship, and your relationship will begin to reflect and mirror more of that. Yes. And where can people find out more about you and your work, and anything coming up that you want to tell us about?
So you can find out about all my work on Instagram, which is at marina.y.t, just like my name. And what I have coming up, which I'm really excited about, is a program called Heal Flow. And it is a 5-month group coaching program where basically we're going to learn these things about the nervous system and the different states and emotions and all these things, and also practice it in a group setting. And really, this safe, cozy Zoom virtual space together. You're also going to get practice partners to work with, and just this whole community that is healing together. So it's going to be so powerful.
All right. So we're following you on Instagram. That is where all the action, all the updates are happening. And again, you just post such wonderful insights that are really practical and accessible, and so inspiring. Any final words? Anything else that you want to share?
Just, we all have those ups and downs, every single one of us. It's normal. You're normal. There's nothing wrong with you. So if you feel in your relationships like this sense of desperation, just know that it passes, and then you come to a more clear place, and you can make all the decisions that you need to make. But just know that all of the emotions, they pass. Also the happiness. So it all changes and evolves, and we don't need to get kind of married or stuck to a particular state or emotion. Just know that, the next one is waiting for you on the other side.
What a beautiful embrace and acceptance of it all. So lovely. Such a deep treat and pleasure to get to connect with you and learn from you and share you with our community. Thank you so much, Marina, for this wonderful conversation and for all of the just sacred healing work you do in the world. What a difference you make. Sending you so much love.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all so much for chiming in. May this really open you up to what's possible. So if there is something that's been really standing in the way of feeling this level of peace or deep connection or aliveness in your relationship, it does not mean that it's a dead end. It's probably just some part of you that is calling for some healing. And on the other side of that, there are some wonderful new beginnings that just might be awaiting you. So thank you so much, Marina. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And we'll see you next time. Want more support for your relationship or want to become trained as a certified relationship coach to help other couples? We warmly welcome you to head on over to centerthrive.com. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you next time on the Thriving Relationship Show.